All right, and here we are back in test taking skills. This is going to be our part 2. So the last time we talked about kind of things to do before, what stuff you should know, and now we're going to talk about, okay, you're at the test and you're actually having some problems with anxiety. So here are some tips. Try breathing exercises. I know, everybody's rolling their eyes at this point, but it does actually work. So, physiological, mechanisms help to regulate and decrease some stress levels. So a lot of times when you're stressed, your heart beats faster and you breathe a little faster, things like that. So if you will actually consciously work on taking some deep, slow breaths, slow your heart down a little bit, and some of those anxiety, those physiological manifestations of anxiety will sort of decrease to a certain extent. So give it a shot. That's a good one to try right when the test starts. A lot of people do that. As soon as they say, okay, you can begin, they close their eyes, they take a couple of deep breaths, spend like 30 seconds just relaxing. All right, use your scratch paper. This is a good one. So if you find that you are often stressed during your test, if you have some scratch paper, it's a good idea to just write everything that you can think of right at the beginning of the test on your scratch paper that you think might be on the test. And that way, when you're going through the test, you're not having to try to remember everything from memory. Some of it you've already written on your scratch paper, and that can be very calming. All right, rhythmic movements. So there are a number of people that doing something rhythmically helps them to relax. Especially the kinesthetic folks, a lot of times they need to be constantly in motion. And this helps with that. Now you want to do something that is not going to distract your fellow test takers. So I suggest non-noise making, perhaps like a squishy ball or something. You can consider perhaps flexing your fist even. So you don't have a squishy ball, but you can sit there and rhythmically flex and relax your fist. Some people will move just slightly back and forth on your chair. Again, whatever works for you, just you don't want to distract the other people around you. All right, and here's a good one. We're ending up into minimizing distractions. So if you are one of the people that are easily distracted by your fellow test takers, you want to find yourself a spot that is going to be out of the normal route of traffic. In other words, maybe sitting up against a wall or in the front of the room or the back of the room or somewhere where you're not constantly going to be interrupted from your test taking by people moving around and getting up. If you can't ignore those things, put yourself in a place where you're not constantly having to deal with those. Another thing you might think about is earplugs. A lot of times if you talk to your instructor, let them know that the sound really distracts you, they will allow you to wear the earplugs when you are testing. So sometimes those are good plans. You can also ask about standing. So if you were to pick a spot where your standing environment is not necessarily like maybe the front of the classroom, where your standing is not going to be distracting, or there would be no issue of perhaps you're looking at someone else's stuff, then and you feel more comfortable standing when testing, and again, this kind of leads into not the happy place, but we're going to put up, if you don't ask, you won't know. Now this goes two ways. So if you need something to test well, then ask for it. You never know whether or not it's going to be allowed unless you ask. So if you don't ask, you won't know about the earplugs or standing or sitting in a position where you won't be constantly distracted. So those things are things that you have to ask for. Now the other part of that is if you get to a question and you don't know it, don't sit there and spend forever trying to reason it out. If you have a question, raise your hand and ask your question. All they're going to do is say, I can't tell you that. well, then you're in exactly the same position you were before, but they might be able to give you some assistance. So it's worth asking, at least to find out. All right, now we're going to go back to the happy place part. On the happy place, anybody who's ever seen Happy Gilmore would kind of understand this idea. If you've never seen the movie, it's actually a pretty goofy movie. It's about a guy who is trying to win a golfing tournament, and this other guy keeps totally stressing him out, and whenever he gets stressed out and upset, then he does really horrible when he swings. So, one of his teachers was trying to help him to find a happy place so that he can visualize that whenever he was golfing and therefore would perform better. Well, interestingly enough, the idea is the same when you are taking a test. So a lot of times stress is such a thing that your brain kind of spends all of its time there on stress. So one of the best times to use a happy place is if you go blank in a test. A lot of times people will be so stressed out they can't think of anything at all. That's all they can think about is stress. So the idea behind a happy place is that you close your eyes and you have to be there. So just like in Happy Gilmore, now everybody's all going to be going out to watch Happy Gilmore. And I'm really sorry because it is a particularly idiotic movie. But the idea is there, and it's a good idea, and you have to be there. If you'll notice, if you ever do happen to go see it, even if you just Google that happy place and Happy Gilmore. But if you see it, he's there. He's visualizing it. He's seeing it. He's hearing it. So when you do your happy place, you need to be there. You need to, let's say it's the woods. You need to feel the bark for the stump that you're sitting on. You need to feel the grass up against your ankles. You need to feel the breeze blowing. You need to hear the birds. You need to feel the warm sunshine. So you get the idea. It's not enough just to say, oh yeah, this is my happy place. You have to be there. And the idea behind it is that you immerse yourself. So you occupy your brain entirely with creating this happy place. And in doing that, you leave no room for stress. And so then you are able to perform better because stress has been kind of pushed out. All right, and those are a few on how to deal. We're going to talk about some good tips on the mechanics of testing in the next part.